The definition of the word due: expected at or planned for a certain time, of the proper quality or extent, adequate. A person's right, what is owed to someone. An obligatory payment of fee. Now the word process. Process definition.
Process, a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end.
A series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. So again, this episode is called The Process. And the process is geared at being arrested. This is the process. The process is the application for a bed, the application for food, the application for clothes, and the application for medical assistance in the county mental institution. The county jail is considered a mental hospital. The state prisons is considered state mental institutions. And no one goes to the mental institutions, or the prisons as you want to call them, without going through the process. But the thing I'm trying to share with you is no one has to go through the process. The 13th Amendment states involuntary servitude is prohibited in the United States, which means can't nobody force you to do anything you don't want to do. So, by example, I'm going to show you what you do when you go through the process. You don't have to. You have rights to refuse the process. Whether you're guilty, innocent, or whatever. It don't make a difference what you are, because you still have these rights that you can reserve, opposed to having someone solicit you into waiving any of them. You have rights. And you have a right to due process, and you have a right not to due process. So if you do not want to go to jail or apply for that bed in the county, I'm advising you to take the right of not to go through due process. But this is the examples of what you do when you get arrested and you go through this process. It's an application for a bed in the county prison. The first thing you do when you go through this process is you have to be approached by an officer of the law. They call them law enforcement officers. Their job is to convince you to confess to a crime, whether it minor or whether it major. The bottom line is they need you to confess in one way or the other. And the way they get you to confess is they want you to answer their questions. And when you go into answering their questions, you're going into voluntary servitude, because involuntary servitude is prohibited in this country. The officer's duty is to tell you you have the right to remain silent. And you do. But this is the process. Everything you do and anything you do will be used against you in a court of law. The point of me making this tape is to show you what you do to go to the county prison to wait for trial. And what you do when you do everything they say they will use against you, opposed to shutting up when they say you have the right to remain silent. This is how the process works. First, you are detained. You're put in handcuffs and you're taken against your will in a kidnap formality. They take you to the district. Once they take you to the district, they empty all of your pockets out, itemize all of your stuff, and call it property. And they put it in a bag, and then they take you and put you in their cell. The process of going to jail, this is the process. While you're in that cell, they may offer you a phone call. You call someone, let them know you're there, you're all right, and you're waiting. The end of the process, the very end of the process is when you get bail. That's the end of it. But let's go through the beginning before we get to the end. The first thing you do when they take you to jail, the objective is for you to see the judge. So, while you're in jail, they call you out first. First part, I think the process has 4 parts. First part of the process is the police talks, get you to call you out your cell. Everybody individually, as this revolving door brings people into their jails, because it is a revolving door, and they ask you to talk, leave your cell, go around the corner and pick up the phone and talk to the district attorney. The first thing a district attorney says to you is you state your name and your address, which this is part of the process, which I'm advising you is your rights, is you have the right to remain silent. But when you go through this process, once you start giving this district attorney your name and your address, and then he starts saying if you give him any false information, you're already subject to going to jail just for lying to them. So this is more reasons why I say do not talk to these people, because you have the right to remain silent. So this is the first part of the process, talking to the district attorney and volunteering information, which the 13th Amendment prohibits involuntary servitude. But when you talk to the district attorney and you volunteer all this information to this stranger, then you are applying for a bed in the county. This is the first part of the process. After you finish with the district attorney, they take you back to your cell. Now, you wait about another 4 or 5 more hours, maybe. It depends on how crowded this district is. Now they're going to call you out for you to take a mugshot, a photograph. Now, when you take the photograph, they make you go against the wall. I'm going to illustrate this. I've got to illustrate this. They have you go against the wall, and I'm going to point my finger at the wall. They go against the wall. I got to turn some more light on because it's dark in here. 1 minute. They have you go against the wall. This is the process. It's the wall. They have you put your face on the wall. Oh, let me remind you, no glasses. You can have no glasses on, and you can't have no hat on. This is called the mugshot. You get against the wall. They say put your head up high, look straight into the camera, straight into the camera, and they want to take your photo. This is considered the mugshot. It's part of the process. Then they tell you turn to the left, and this is the process. But the thing I want to remind you about this process is nobody's forcing me to get against this wall. I'm doing this on my own accord, which is voluntary. The 13th Amendment prohibits involuntary servitude, but nobody's forcing me to do this, so I'm doing this voluntarily. The cop that's asked me to take this picture is now forcing me to get up here. He's asking me to get here to do this, but I'm doing it on my own. Nobody's forcing me up here to do this. This is the second part of the process. My point to you is do not get against the wall and refuse it. Stay in your cell. They have 72 hours to hold you in this prison, this district, opposed to you going voluntarily through this process. If you go hold up for 72 hours, they have to kick you out of this prison, this district, opposed to you applying for the bed in the county, because the next thing smoking, you will be on it. The next van coming for the rest of these guys who finish this process, you'll be on that van. This is the second part of the process. Then after you finish taking your pictures and everything, you go back to your cell. Now, after you go back to your cell and you finish these pictures, you sit back, maybe they sweat you maybe another few more hours. For the few more hours they're sweating you, then they're going to call you again, and the next part of the process is your fingerprints. Now, when they call you out for your fingerprints, this is the third part of the process. They tell you, come out and go over here to this gentleman over here with this little, they used to use ink pads and stuff. Now they use electronic computers for your fingerprints. They tell you, lay your finger on the table, your hand on the table, give me your palm print, your palm prints. Then they want you to roll your fingers one at a time, roll them. You know, each individual finger. They say, follow me. Roll with me. This is the process of your fingerprints. When they take your fingerprints, I'm gonna say it again, no different than the pictures on the wall, the photo, the mugshot. They use the mugshot for exploiting you. They use that same mugshot for coming to get you with a warrant in case you should not show up to court. But when they roll your fingers on here, it's the same thing with the mugshot. They say, roll with me. Watch this. When they say roll with me, they want me to roll with them with my fingers, and they want me to direct them with giving them my fingerprints, which is another voluntary act. No one's forcing you to give them your fingerprints. You are doing it voluntarily. As a matter of fact, you are assisting them in getting it correct. This is a voluntary act, even though the 13th Amendment prohibits involuntary servitude, which means no one can force them to give, no one can force you to give them your fingerprints. So advising you again, stay in your cell for 72 hours and refuse giving them their fingerprints. And they will have to kick you out of that cell in 72 hours if you do not see the judge within the first 48 to 72 hours. That's the third part of the process of applying for a bed in the county. All right. That's the fourth part of the process. The fourth part of the process is, the bail commissioner. Everybody's been waiting for the bail commissioner. So people are waiting so long for the bail commissioner, they can't wait for the bed in the county because they're tired of sitting on the hard benches here. The hard benches, the hard cold benches, the hard hot benches, but depending on whether it's summertime or wintertime. The bottom line is it's an uncomfortable position to be in. But my advice to you, if you could do a year in the county, you could do 3 days in the district. Okay? So now, they're going to call you out for the fourth part of this process. And the fourth part of the process is seeing the bail commissioner. Seeing the bail commissioner goes like this. They call you out the cell again. Right now, you all sweated out and you can't wait to see the bail commissioner. And I'm going to say it again. Only person that wants to go see a bail commissioner is a person that wants bail. Personally speaking, I do not ever want to see a bail commissioner. I do not ever want to talk to a district attorney because I want to go home. And if you're going to go see a bail commissioner, just the last part of the process of applying for a bed in the county. You go see the bail commissioner on a monitor, equivalent as I am speaking to you now. And when you see the bail commissioner on the monitor, this monitor this monitor is being shown to other people in other places, bearing witness to you actually being sold like a slave on a chopping block. And they're asking you for your name, which I'm going to say, again, is part of the process. You give them your name and your address. Now he's going to charge you because you're voluntarily giving them information to charge you. I'm going to say it again. The 13th Amendment prohibits involuntary servitude, so nobody's forcing me to give him my name. I'm going into this room, talking to this stranger on a TV monitor, voluntarily giving him information in order to charge me. And I'm saying that if you do not want to be charged, do not go into this room. Refuse it. Stay in your cell and sweat this thing out for 72 hours. And they can't charge you. They can't charge you without you going in this room to be charged. So, after he finished charging you with whatever the cops gave him to charge you with, after you approved him to charge you by coming into the room for the charges, it's not over yet. That's the fourth part of the process. Is one more thing that must be done. It's required based on the state's government rules and regulations, because you're subjecting yourself to state rule opposed to being a sovereign person. Now you're under state rule once you make this last mistake. The last thing you must do prior to going to applying for this bid, you can't apply for anything without, they need your signature. Now, after you leave this monitor in front of this stranger on this television, after you gave him all that personal information you should have kept to yourself, you're going to leave out of that room and you're going to go to the officer outside that room. And he's going to ask you to look at this little electronic machine and he's going to ask you to sign it. This is the last phase of applying for a bed in the county. It's no different than you applying for welfare and you want that check and food stamps. It's no different than you applying for SSI or SSD. It requires your signature. It's no different than you applying for a dinner at Red Lobster. You want a table for yourself. You're reserving a seat for a day in court. It's called being booked. You're booking reservations for a day in court. You're booking reservations for a day to be duly convicted. You're booking for a day to be duly prosecuted. It's called due process. This is called the process. of applying for a bed in the county. Let's look at the word process. 1 minute. 1 minute. After all I've just stated to you, let's look at the word process. Definition of process.
Process, a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end.
Wow. Repeat that.
Process, a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end.
I believe that's just what I explained to you. A series of processes or steps achieved to achieve a particular end. There's one more word. That's process, but the whole point of this is called due process. 1 minute. Let me see what the word, let's look at the word due. 1 minute. Due. Oh, 1 minute, I'm sorry.